Keanu Reeves was the last person anyone expected to cause a stir. Known for his calm presence and deep humility, he was beloved by fans and respected even by those in the industry who rarely handed out compliments. So when Good Morning America announced he would be doing a live in-studio interview to promote his new action drama Ghost Protocol, Redemption, producers anticipated a quiet, insightful segment. No one foresaw the storm that was about to hit, least of all George Stephanopoulos. The morning was typical. Makeup chairs, production chatter, coffee cups clinking, and the slow buzz of a live broadcast warming up. Keanu arrived exactly on time. Dressed in a simple black suit and dark t-shirt, he nodded politely to crew members, took his seat quietly, and offered a warm handshake to George. All signs pointed to another smooth, if not understated, appearance. The cameras rolled. We're joined now by Keanu Reeves, star of the much-anticipated Ghost Protocol, Redemption. George said, his signature smile in place. Keanu, welcome back to GMA. Thank you. Keanu replied with a slight bow of his head. Nice to be here. They exchanged a few soft questions to start. Keanu talked about the physical training, the emotional arc of his character, and a powerful scene in which his character watches the sun rise over a ruined city. The audience seemed intrigued, and even George nodded along until he flipped his cue card. So, Keanu, George began, voice shifting to a more pointed tone, let's be real. Isn't this just another variation of the same character you've played for the last 2 decades? The silent, brooding guy with a tragic past who ends up taking down a dozen enemies with a single clip? Keanu's eyebrows raised slightly. His posture stiffened. I think there's a lot more going on in this film, he said. It's about loss, yes, but also about healing. My character isn't just shooting people, he's fighting to get his soul back. George chuckled. But it wasn't a kind one, sure, but you've got to admit you've become something of a walking archetype. Fans love it, but don't you ever feel boxed in? Like maybe you're just doing what people expect instead of pushing yourself. There was a pause. The kind that makes a live audience lean forward. Keanu sat straighter in his chair. I think it's easy to label things from the outside. Easy to reduce years of thought, training, and emotional effort into one-liners. But it's lazy journalism. The air in the studio dropped by 10 degrees. Even the floor manager hesitated, unsure if they should signal for a commercial break. I'm not trying to insult you, George said, his tone suddenly defensive. I'm just doing my job. These are the questions viewers want answers to. Then, maybe they deserve better questions, Keanu shot back, his voice still low, but now with unmistakable steel. There was a long silence. The kind where every camera operator stops adjusting their lens. Even the sound technician froze, hand hovering above the mixer. Keanu stood up slowly, unclipped his mic. I don't do this for clicks, he said, looking directly at George. I do it because storytelling matters. Without another word, he turned and walked off the set, calm but firm. The camera caught a flash of his back as he disappeared behind the curtain. Gasps rippled through the live studio audience. A producer could be heard muttering, go to break, just as the screen cut to an ad for breakfast cereal. George remained seated, stunned. His usual quick wit had failed him, and for the first time in recent memory, he was at a complete loss for words. Backstage, Keanu walked briskly past handlers and assistants calling his name. One tried to hand him a coat, another offered a bottled water. He took neither. His driver opened the door to the waiting black SUV, and without looking back, Keanu slipped in and was gone. What had started as a standard morning promo had just turned into a media explosion. Within minutes, hashtags like #Keanu walk out and #respect Keanu were trending. Screenshots of his expression mid-confrontation circulated on social media with captions like a masterclass in grace under fire. And while GMA scrambled to recover from the live incident, one thing was clear for Keanu. Reeves had just reminded everyone that quiet men could still make a lot of noise. The aftermath of Keanu Reeves' abrupt exit from Good Morning America played out like a Hollywood thriller, except this time it was real. And it was everywhere. Within 30 minutes of the incident, the clip of Keanu removing his mic and walking off set had gone viral. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, every platform exploded. With reactions, fans around the world weighed in. Some were shocked. Most were outraged not at Keanu, but at how George Stephanopoulos had handled the interview. Asterisk, he showed restraint, one fan tweeted. Keanu could have humiliated him, but instead he chose dignity. Class act. Another viral post read, imagine being so smug you make John Wick storm off live television. Asterisk, meanwhile, Good Morning America scrambled to manage the damage. A hastily released official statement claimed, we deeply respect Mr. Reeves and regret the discomfort caused during today's segment. Our intention was never to undermine his work, but viewers weren't buying it. They'd seen the smirks. They'd heard the tone. Asterisk, the studio's phone lines were overwhelmed. Emails poured in. Sponsors even started quietly asking for explanations. Behind the scenes, ABC executives convened emergency meetings to discuss whether George had crossed a line, and whether his interviewing style, often praised for being probing, had finally turned toxic. Asterisk, George remained silent for the rest of the day. Insiders said he was rattled. One producer overheard him say, I didn't think he would be the one to snap. He's always so zen. But Keanu hadn't snapped, he had drawn a line. And the world had noticed. Asterisk, Keanu, for his part, vanished from the spotlight for 48 hours. No statements, no press releases, no interviews, just silence. Paparazzi spotted him riding his motorcycle through downtown Los Angeles, helmet on, face unreadable. One blurry photo made the rounds with the caption, when a man rides in silence, the world listens louder. Asterisk, on the third day, Keanu finally broke the silence with an Instagram post. No long-winded explanation, just a black and white photo of an empty interview chair. The caption, silence speaks louder than spin. It racked up over 10 million likes in less than 8 hours. That same evening, he appeared as a surprise guest on a small independent film podcast called The Frame Within. It wasn't flashy. There were no makeup teams, no cue cards, no rehearsed promos. Just Keanu seated in a dim room, speaking to a soft-spoken host named Leela Grant. Asterisk, I didn't walk out to make a scene, Keanu said during the interview. His tone even, I walked out because I've spent over 30 years pouring myself into this craft, and when someone reduces all that to a meme, it's hard to stay seated. He paused. I've played heroes. I've played villains. I've buried myself in scripts, lost weight for roles, trained for months, cried in silence for characters people will never fully understand. That matters. Storytelling matters. And I think people are hungry for that kind of depth. Not just explosions and one-liners. Asterisk, Lila nodded. Do you think George owes you an apology? Asterisk, Keanu smiled faintly. I don't need one, but I hope. He reflects on the power of words, especially when the cameras are rolling. Asterisk, the episode became the most listened to podcast in The Frame Within's history. Major outlets picked it up. Quotes from it were turned into graphics, tattoos even, t-shirts. One especially popular phrase was Keanu's closing line, respect is silent until it's tested. Asterisk, as for Ghost Protocol, Redemption, the film that had started it all, it shattered box office expectations. On opening weekend, theaters were packed. Audiences applauded during the credits. Critics called it Reeves' most emotionally resonant performance in years. But it wasn't just the movie that brought people in. It was the man. Asterisk, people weren't just watching Keanu act. They were showing up for the principle he represented. That in a world obsessed with spectacle, there was still room for quiet integrity. Asterisk, back on GMA, George returned to his hosting duties with a noticeably more measured tone. The following Monday, he opened the show not with his usual punchy lead-in, but with a brief monologue. Asterisk, sometimes, in the pursuit of a headline, we forget the heart behind the story. Last week, I failed to see that. And for that, I want to say I hear you. I hear him and I'll do better. It wasn't a direct apology, but it was something. Keanu never commented on it. He didn't need to. Asterisk, he was already on a plane too. Tokyo, beginning the next leg of his international press tour, still quiet, still composed, still a storm no one saw coming. Asterisk.